Welcome to The Explainer. All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to tackle an idea that might seem, well, pretty out there, that ancient religious texts, thousands of years old, could actually hold some really surprising ideas about gender. We're going to explore a book that finds exactly that, in a place you would probably least expect it. So what are we really talking about here? We're diving into a book called Trans Talmud, and it looks at figures in ancient Jewish law who, don't really fit into a simple male or female box. And trust me, it's a journey that's going to make you rethink a lot of what you thought you knew about both the past and the present.
So, how does a book like this even come to be? Well, its story really begins with this moment of personal discovery for the author, Max Strassfeld. And you've got to understand, for him, this wasn't just some dusty academic project. No, this was personal.
See, as a trans man, Strassfeld came across these figures, like androgynos and eunuchs, in rabbinic literature for the first time, and he was just totally hooked. That one little story, that lit a fire. It kicked off this huge intellectual quest that lasted for years. And that brings us to the million-dollar question, right? It's the whole point of the book, really. I mean, it's one thing to find these figures in old texts. It's something else entirely to figure out how we're supposed to talk about them today without just slapping our own modern labels onto them. And that is exactly what Strassfeld's book, Trans Talmud, tries to do. It gives us a brand new way to bridge this huge gap between ancient rabbinic writings and all our current conversations about gender, identity, and politics.
Now, this is super important, so let's be really clear about it. The book is not saying that an ancient androgyny is the same thing as a modern transgender person. The categories just don't line up one-to-one. The real argument is that by understanding how ancient rabbis debated these figures, we can get some powerful new tools for thinking about our own world. So how do you even begin to tackle something this complicated? Well, Strassfeld came up with a really unique method of reading that he calls transing the Talmud. It's a way of looking at the text that completely shifts the focus.
So what does it actually mean to trans a text? Basically, it's like flipping the script. You take these figures who are usually just footnotes, these historical oddities, and you put them right in the middle of the story. You ask, hey, what does this whole thing look like from their point of view? This slide lays it out perfectly. First, you center the people who are usually on the margins. Second, and this is the really wild part, you do what Strassfeld calls bad reading. This means you kind of intentionally read the text wrong. Maybe you apply a modern idea to it, or you take it super, super literally, just to see where the text's own logic starts to crack. And third, you take what you find and connect it all back to real modern issues. And here's the thing, this isn't just some abstract word game. It's all about real physical bodies, how they change, how they just refuse to be put in a neat little box. And it's about noticing how the ancient writers often projected their own fears about reproduction or aging onto these non-binary figures.
Okay, so theory is one thing, but let's see how this actually works. We've got a fantastic example coming up, where Strassfeld puts an ancient text right up against a very, very modern political debate.
And wow, this just lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you've got modern bathroom bills, which are often designed to legislate trans identity out of existence. But on the other side, you have these ancient rabbis who, yeah, they're debating legal details, but their starting point is that the androgyne is just a natural part of creation. So you've got this ancient text that's actually, in a way, pushing back against a very modern kind of exclusion. Think about that.
But this method also opens up a much bigger, much heavier question that we're still dealing with today. What happens when we try to force complex, messy bodies into simple binary categories? What's the real cost of doing that?
So when you look at how the rabbis really struggled with bodies that didn't fit, you uncover what the book calls these unreckoned costs. The texts actually show a ton of doubt about whether you can even find a body's true sex. And that creates a straight line, a direct connection, to modern-day activism, especially the fight against performing non-consensual surgeries on intersex children. All right, so after all of that, where do we land? What's the big takeaway from Trans Talmud? Well, it's not quite as simple as you might think. This is the question a lot of people probably have in their minds, right? After all this digging, can we look back into these ancient texts and find our ancestors, our transcestors? And the answer Strassfeld lands on is, well, it's a no. But it's a really thoughtful and powerful no. We can't ever really know the inner lives of these ancient people. We just can't claim them as one of us.
But the real discovery, the real insight, is actually something way more profound.
And this right here, this is the mic drop moment of the book. The point isn't to find modern people in old clothes. It's to realize that bodies have always been messy. They have always pushed back against our neat little systems. The rabbis tried to map everything out, and the texts themselves show how again and again bodies just refused to fit on the map.
And that's what we're left with, this amazing open-ended question. If you can find all of this by looking at the Talmud differently, just imagine what else is hiding in plain sight in all those other ancient stories we thought we knew so well. What could we find if we just started asking some different questions?